welcome to chemistry. My name is Mrs. Rivera.
We are now in period 3.
And I am actually a chemist. I did get a chemistry degree. And again, please write your child's name on the clipboard because I don't know who you are and sometimes the last names are different, but then I know whose parents came and that I find valuable. And you'll see, you might see pictures of your children today. I took all the pictures this week that are in the presentation. And again, there's my email. Generally, if you email me, give me 24 hours. Unless I get 20 emails in one day, it might take me 48. You can always re-email me, but I do check my email constantly, so I generally get back to you very quickly. My phone doesn't even work over there anymore. I don't know what happened to it, but nobody ever uses it. So if you leave a message, I probably won't get it, so email is definitely the way to go. And you might be wondering why you haven't seen a chemistry textbook yet, and that's because it's actually voluntary checkout. There is one in the library. It's a good resource to have for some students, but instead I have them keep these binders, and you can see the inside of the binder there. That's the front page of the packet for the unit. It has a schedule on it, so that the students know exactly what's going on every day. I try to stick as closely as I can to these schedules. With some new Common Core stuff, sometimes things take a little longer, but usually I stick with this. In fact, there was a test today that everyone took in the class. And so this is actually the textbook. The notes are very, very inclusive and very detailed. But of course, the textbook is great, especially if you're going to be gone for a while or you get sick. It's a good resource to have. But there's a lot of online resources too. So there's a schedule for the unit, and I do want you to know that you can ask your child anytime, let me see your notebook if you want to check up on them. And this is one way you can tell if they're actually staying current with the work. I have a stamping system, and on their practice sheets, way that you can tell if they're actually turning it in on time, it's for completion, it's not necessarily how correct it is. But this is where they want to get the stamp indicating that they've met the due date 100%. However, I do give partial credit, so if you see stamped down in that corner, that is 75% got done by the due date. And then of course there's half is done. And I'll even give them a stamp up in that corner if they have at least 25% of the assignment done. So you can actually flip through and see what the stamps look like. And that will give you a really good indication on whether they're doing their homework or not. So I'll talk a little bit more about EDU in a moment, because that's the other way that you can see what's going on with your child. This is actually not the lab. We don't just sit at the tables all the time and work on papers. Our lab is actually across the hall, and it looks like that. And we have actually had 3 labs so far, and I failed to take pictures during those labs, but next year, so live and learn. So anyway, we do go in the lab quite a bit. In the honors chemistry class, I am trying to bring in some of the Common Core methodology. I hope you all understand that Common Core is not a curriculum, it is a methodology, and it basically emphasizes collaborative work and applying, synthesizing, and creating with their knowledge instead of just learning the basics. It's a little difficult in the honors class because I'm still beholden to the AP class and to the universities, and so I'm a little bit sort of teetering on getting through all the curriculum, but also giving them those skills that are so important that the university people and business people have been complaining that our students are not coming to them with. So we do quite a bit of group collaborative work. So it's still the same curriculum, extensive topics. We cover all the important topics that are considered the first year of chemistry. But I am getting them ready for AP Chem if they decide to take that. But we do a lot of problem solving in groups. You can see that each table has a family name, and each student has a role in the family, so I can give out jobs. And they're kind of in training right now, learning how the system works. And I do move them around every 3 or 4 weeks. I rarely let them choose their own partners, but sometimes I do. But they need to learn how to work with anybody and everybody. I do make my choices sometimes about who's going to be working with whom. But I try to get them a lot of exposure to different people. And in the honors classes, I find that the students really know each other well, and so there's a lot of really good collaboration that goes on. These are some of the Common Core methodologies that we are starting to bring in more and more. They get to speak a lot. So instead of me always speaking like I'm doing right now, which is not very Common Core, I try to get them to speak to one another as much as possible and give them some structure to do it. We do some writing now, which is something that, I mean, we've always done that in the labs, but we're wanting them to learn to express themselves and their ideas in writing in a way that they can get their ideas across to other people. This right here is one of the ways that we did it this week. This is a do now. No, so this do now right here is a true story based on a Gulf War situation where 28 American soldiers were killed because a missile that the Iraqis sent over did not get intercepted. Turns out it was a calculation error, and right now we're doing our math unit, basic math skills, including something called significant figures. And a lot of students were asking about, you know, well, why do we even have to do sig figs? Well, here's a situation where the Americans didn't do it, and 28 people died. So on the other side, and this is at the tables if you want to take a closer look at it, they have some information and they have to do some conversions, which was one of our topics this unit. And then at the bottom, there's a little section where they write. And even though it's a short clip, if they practice writing constantly, they're going to get better and better at it. And give me a second here, I will get this back up to speed. I'm not sure why it's kicking me off on a 10-minute time frame here. But here we go. There we go. Professionalism, there's a poster back there which you should see in every classroom. This is actually part of your child's academic grade in my class. It's 15% before the final, and then it goes down a little bit more after the final. But it's do they come on time? Do they do their work? Are they collaborating? Are they pulling their weight? You know, do they have their binder organized? Those sorts of things. Are they respectful in class? So we're sort of moving towards having that be part of the academic grade. I used to have it as extra credit, but now it's actually for reals. Outside of the core chemistry, I try to bring in as much sort of illustrative stuff as possible. So here are some of the topics that we work with. We already did grade-specific garbage patch and oil spills. In 2 units, we're going to do nuclear. You're probably going to hear your children talking about the nuclear unit because they learn some shocking stuff. And climate change is a big one when we get to equilibrium. We want the students to walk out of here being able to vote on some of the legislation that's coming down the pike. I don't tell them my opinion, they form their own. And we have a great acid rain lab at the end of the year where they actually have to map out the source of acid rain. Inquiry labs is a big part of Common Core. There's a little bit of a conflict of interest with time and doing inquiry labs, and so we're kind of working on that at the honors level to get them as much of the knowledge, but also open it up to, so the first lab we did was an inquiry lab where they were given a bunch of glassware and some salt water, and we're like, here, separate the salt from the water, figure it out. And they're presently writing a scientific letter on this. And so I do up to 8 scientific letters a year, at least 4, but I'm planning on 8. I think I'll get probably 5 through. So that's another one of the literacy components where they're going to learn how to write in a way that will be very useful for them when they're on a job, because they have to summarize very articulately and briefly but succinctly, which is really hard. So here's how to get onto EDU. So if you haven't been invited by your student, you can sit down with them, by your child. You can sit down with them, and I can send you these steps if you don't have time to write them down. It's pretty easy, but just email me if you want to have a copy of this list of steps, and then you'll be able to get onto EDU and see what the grade is at any point in time. I usually update the grades about once a week, so don't go on every day, but if you go from week to week, you'll be able to see their progress and if they're missing any work. So I hope that gave you a good idea of how the course looks. I do have iPads that Dr. Cash bought for me. We use them occasionally to do research and to do some other fun things. One of the things I'd like to do is integrate them into the class so the students can do quick presentations. And so I'm still working on integrating that in time-wise. But we're kind of moving forward with technology and sort of a new way of teaching, and I hope that it serves the students well. And I thank you for coming. Any questions? Covered it all, huh? Think about it for a minute. This is hot time. This is golden. This is unusual. It's making me nervous to you know what? Here's something cool to see. That is my phone. Please ignore that. I wanted you to see one of the answers that the students wrote to this do now. And I'll read it to you in case you can't read the writing. The soldiers were not able to stop the missile due to the inaccurate grounding of sig figs for the missile speed, and the arrival time of the missile was wrong. They sent the missile too early. So it's a quick glimpse of writing, but that was a very complete answer.
Please
They hit on
proceed to
all the
period
important
4.
parts.
Period
So there's that
4.
literacy component.